Super Rugby 2019, the final. It all comes down to this. The Crusaders hosting the Jaguares in Christchurch. They finished 1 and 2 on the table. I think the Jaguares were a couple of points behind the Hurricanes on the overall log, but with the conferences the way it ended up. First against second, both with 11 wins. The Crusaders had 2 losses, the Jaguares 5. And the Crusaders also had a couple of draws, plus that one cancelled game. You could be forgiven for thinking this is pretty much a test match looking at the teams. I mean, obviously there's a few guys who are uncapped, but there's a lot of capped players for both sides. So it's almost like a mini taste of the Rugby Championship in this final week of Super Rugby. There is a lot to look forward to. It's kind of adding a bit of spice to the fact that they didn't play each other in the regular season, so we don't know where these two teams are at. How did they get here? The Crusaders beat the Highlanders 38-14 in their quarterfinal. Pretty comfortable, especially in that second half. The Jaguares had a bit of a tougher time with the Chiefs, but they still beat them 21-16 over in Buenos Aires. And then it was kind of the reverse for the semi-finals. The Hurricanes gave the Crusaders a pretty tough time. It was 30-26. And the Jaguares did it pretty easy in the end over the Brumbies, 39-7. So they've had to travel, did the Jaguares. They probably would have preferred the Hurricanes, but hey, it's going to be one heck of a game. As I said, almost like a test. These two teams both looking pretty sharp, and they've both had pretty good seasons. I will put the lineups in the description so you guys can have a look at the teams. The Crusaders have only made 2 changes to their starting lineup, and their injury enforced changes because Codie is out. I think he's got a broken thumb, and Scott Barrett's out with a broken finger. So both these guys are not eligible for this game. So Braydon Ennor comes into the squad for the starting squad for the Crusaders. He's at 13, so Jack Goodhue moves into number 12. And Mitchell Dunshea is favoured over Luke Romano in the second row. So he's got a pretty good partner in Sam Whitelock with him. I mean, the front row is the same. Franks, Taylor, and Moody. Whetu Douglas, Matt Todd, and Kieran Reid at the back row. Hall and Moanga 9 and 10. It's Bridge, Reece, and Havili in their back 3. Havili will be pretty disappointed not to make that All Black squad recently, so he'll have a point to prove in this game for sure. In terms of the Jaguares, they've made 3 changes. Moyano comes back on the wing. He has been injured. I think he played off the bench last week because they're kind of easing him back into the squad. So Cancellieri moves to the bench, and he's been in good form as well. So it's kind of win-win for the Jaguares. Either one is good. Tetes Chaparro comes in at loose head, and Crema, it was also playing on the bench last week, a bit of an injury cloud, but he made it through that game from the bench. He is in the back row because it's Lavanini and Petty in the second row. Crevi and Medrano, the other 2 front rowers. Ortega Decio and Matera, who's been excellent all season, make up the back row. Kubeli and Bonija are 9 and 10. De La Fuente and Orlando, who have to be one of the most underrated pairings in Super Rugby, are the midfield. Moroni is the other winger, along with Boffelli at fullback. So, yeah, 2 pretty good-looking teams. In terms of the Jaguares playing against New Zealand teams, they've had a fairly successful record, although it's 3 wins out of 5 games. So they did beat the Blues, not that counts as that much, and I say that as a Blues fan, over in Buenos Aires. They beat the Hurricanes over here in Wellington, which was a big win, and they beat the Chiefs in the quarterfinal, as I mentioned earlier. They did lose to the Chiefs in pool play over in Buenos Aires, and they lost to the Highlanders in a pretty unlucky loss down in Dunedin. For the Crusaders, it's kind of hard to compare them to anyone because there's only one Argentinian team. But against South African Conference team, their record is a bit mixed. They beat the Bulls at home. They beat they beat the Bulls away. They beat the Lions at home, and they had 2 draws with the South African team. So that was the Sharks at home in Christchurch and away against the Stormers. So I don't know how much you read into that. As I said, South African Conference, but those were South African teams, not an Argentinian team. I mentioned they avoided each other this year, but they did play each other last year in what was quite a different season for the Jaguares. They kind of scraped into the playoffs last year. They are like bashing their way into the playoffs this year. But it was 40 points to 14 to the Crusaders over in Argentina. So it was a pretty disappointing game for the Jaguares last year. But this is a new year, a new coach as well, and the team has really come a long way since then, although I thought Ledesma did a pretty good job last year as well. How's this game going to play out? Well, it's the top run meters getting team in the Crusaders up against the top kick meters team in the Jaguares. So two very different styles of play. It will be interesting to see which one comes out on top. You got to question how well the Jaguares scrum is going to go. It has been a weakness for them this season, and you know the Crusaders love a good scrum, so they will punish any weakness in that Argentinian forward pack. But you also have to wonder how the Crusaders lineout is going to go, because their lineout, whilst not bad, it's kind of middling. It's the 8th best in Super Rugby on their own ball in terms of win percentage of their own ball. But the Jaguares are the 4th best side at stealing lineout ball. Petty is a master of that kind of thing. So if they're not sharp and with changes in the second row, there could be an opportunity there for the Jaguares to upset. They do kick the ball. If they're able to kick the ball, get some territory, and then win that lineout ball off the Crusaders, they could cause problems. But if the Crusaders can get scrum dominance, they could be in a bit of trouble. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch. Kicking percentages, it's funny. Both sides kick at exactly 73%. There's not a percentage difference between them. And I looked up Moonga and Bonisia, who are the two players playing 10 this week. They're both kicking at 75%, although Moonga had a poor start to the season, so that probably doesn't reflect his numbers that well. Last week, the Crusaders kicked at 100%. That's what I'm saying. He's gotten better as the season's gone on with the boot. The Jaguares were 88%, but the one miss was Miotti. It wasn't Bonisia. It was after he'd been subbed off, and it was a pretty tough kick. So both these guys in good kicking form last week. How is it going to go? I mean, there's the travel factor. How will that affect the Jaguares? It seemed to affect the Brumbies last week, or at least that was part of the reason given for their loss. But the Jaguares were on top form in that game. Will the Crusaders, having come off a pretty tough game, be that bit sharper? You know, often you feel like if you have a tough game, that makes you better for the next round, whereas if you have an easy game, maybe not so much. But I guess in terms of the timing, the Jaguares did play on a Friday, so I guess that bit of extra rest factor helps them a little bit as well, and to balance that kind of travel factor. All this being said, the Crusaders are 13-point favourites, so pretty comfortable to go in and get another win. For me, my heart would like the Jaguares to get a first title. I think it would be great, but my head can't go past the Crusaders at home. They are just such a tough team to beat. I don't think there's been many away winners in Super Rugby Finals, and I think it's only the Crusaders who've ever done it. So it is a very big mountain to climb. Either way, let's hope it's a good game. Jaco Piper is the ref. Let's hope he's not being talked about at the end of the game. Let's hope it's just a good game of rugby. Hopefully it's tight. Hopefully we get some good entertainment, some good tries. It should be a good game. I am going to live stream during the game, so if you guys want to jump on there, more than welcome to join in as well. It should be a bit of fun. Let me know your guys' thoughts on how you think the game is going to go. As I said, I think it should be a pretty good one. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's all come down to this, and we'll see how it goes. You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.